this is a very important film, I think, for a lot of people. And congratulations, because it's historical at the moment that there's a U.S. inauguration and everything is so exciting. How is the opportunity? What do you think? What do you feel is an opportunity for the Filipinos now, when it comes to like talents like Eva, because of this change? And also, what kind of opportunities do you think you want to try to also invest in the Philippines? Will you also try, are you also interested na maggawa ng film in the Philippines?
All right, so let's take it one by one. So the first one, the question was, with this change of administration, how does it translate to talent, to Filipino talent entering the business?
I think, the Hollywood has always kind of operated apart from administrations. If anything, I think a lot of movies were kind of pushed further because we were wanting to oppose policies that the government was putting out there. One thing I'm seeing, and both Eve and I got signed during this, after we released the film, and I've been going out. There's just so many opportunities, many more than before, for people that want to tell stories of Filipinos or Asians or the other. That's definitely, there's a lot more colorblind casting where people are just getting cast because they're right, they're great actors, or so I think there's a lot of that going on. I'm happy. I'm glad you asked me the question about whether I would shoot in the Philippines, because I just finished the first draft of my next film, which is a pop music opera set in the Philippines during World War II and follows the journey of a young girl who becomes a guerrilla in the war, but has this sort of magical lizard that she communes with. So it's a magical realism war drama set to pop music. So it's kind of a film I've been wanting to make for a long time, and it's sort of this audacious mixture of different genres. Eva and Princess, I'm looking at you and writing some parts.
Looks like we're gonna have a reunion.
I want to go to the Philippines. I'm desperate. Yes. And I also want to visit Iceland, where you are, Josephine. I'm just kidding.
Miss Ava, do you have any plans of trying to also collaborate or work with the Filipino celebrities? How much of your Filipino heart is with us? What do you think you're missing out, and what do you think you want to experience? Because you're there and we're here, and what are the what are the things that excite you about the Philippines?
Okay, it's a
I will tell you this. When you're in theater, you do 8 shows a week, and you only get 1 week off a year. So the quarantine, this pandemic, is my first proper break in 7.5 years. So even if I wanted to go to the Philippines before, I would want at least 3 weeks so that I can go and see my family in Manila, and I have family in Bacolod, and I want to go to that place that apparently has like different islands with different themes. I want to go everywhere, and I want to stay there and eat a lot of food and meet people and just marinate in Filipino culture. Unfortunately, I haven't been given that break yet. And the second I did get a glimpse of the break, we got hit with the pandemic. And now my bank account kind of doesn't reflect a 3-week vacation. So what I'm hoping to do is go as soon as I'm able to and see what kind of things I can be a part of there. And just meet people and go watch theater and go meet my family and friends who are part of different communities there. My heart is absolutely 100% with the Philippines, like it is 100% with my Mexican side. And it doesn't split. There's no percentage. I'm a very all in or nothing person. But I do think I'm missing out. I like experiencing things firsthand, but I don't like half-assing things. So I want to make sure I'm there for at least 3 weeks to experience the beautiful country and visit the islands and I don't know, you know what I mean? I just want to experience it all and just because I don't, my plan is to go and experience it and not want to leave and then end up being there for like 2 months.
I say 3 weeks is short. I mean, just visit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But 3 weeks in like theater schedule is like 3 weeks. We normally get like a week off every 365 days.
I know. I know. Mommy Jo,
Crazy.
are you good?
One last story, MJ.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask Miss Princess. Miss Princess, we miss you so much, Miss Princess. Who do you think, who you want to work with if you come back? Sino yung gusto mo makapartner, makasama sa pelikula or teleserye?
Actually, hindi na ako updated sa mga artista sa Pilipinas. Wala kasi akong Tagalog na channel. Pero marami ako naririnig na magaganda tungkol sa mga baguhan ngayon. Kaya I would be very excited to work with any one of them.
All right.
Thank you!
Salamat po.
Thank you.
Salamat.
Eva Diane Princess, Mommy Jo is a senior high professor that who sidelines for entertainment vlogging. So
I'm obsessed with you.
thank
I
you.
love
Eva.
everyone asking questions. This is why I love the Philippines.
Yes.
And Diane, don't do you find it weird when we call you direct Diane? It's just a respect.
Not at all. So we shot a couple of scenes in the Philippines. So before we shot, my line producer was like, "Don't be weirded out, but everyone's going to call you direct." And I
Right.
said, "Oh, okay." But I like it. It's like being called chef. If you're in the kitchen, it's like direct. So I like it. Now I'm gonna make everyone call me direct, even in the States.
Love it. Let's have John Bueno of kumagkao.com to ask the next question.
Hi, good afternoon, guys, from where I am, and good morning to you. I think.
Palawan or Boracay or
No, I'm just in a ship. My first question is actually for Eva. Of course, making this film about immigration and all, I'm sure have you had your share of like problems with racism, and where and what happened, and how do you put a stop to racism?
Well, in my question, I will also cure cancer. No, they look. I will say this. I have experienced racism. Absolutely, I have, because I am a young woman of color, and racist people will just get very mad about that. That I'm a successful and confident young woman of color. They get very upset about that.
Oh.
However, I realize my place as an Asian American when it comes to looking at the actual reality of how racism affects me and how racism affects my Black brothers and sisters. I understand where I fall in the line of stereotypes and prejudices and racial injustice. However, I don't feel fear when I walk on the street of getting shot if a police officer asks me to put my hands up and I comply. I don't have that fear. So my suggestion for people who choose ignorance and hatred rather than empathy and a basic foundation of kindness would be to understand, especially here in the United States, but all over the place, that you are not the center of the universe. In fact, you are a very small speck of the universe who's been granted superpowers and has an opportunity and is given blessings and gifts and talents to change the world for the better. So people who are racist and people who choose to sit and get stuck on the wrong side of history, to look at people with different color skin or slanty eyes, as I've been called, and look at them and say, I am better than you, they have obviously chosen the weaker and ignorant and hateful and destructive side of humanity. Unfortunately, in the United States, people get confused with being racist and being a patriot. I don't think that if our founding fathers were to look at what's happening now the black genocide that's going on in the world right now from people who have sworn oaths to protect and defend, I think they'd be very disappointed in what their country that they worked very hard on has turned out to be. So my suggestion would be to, even for me, have tough conversations with yourself and educate yourself on the history of where you're living, the history of the city, the specific location, and who your friends are. And, you know, this is, if I were to say anything, this is a time right now with this inauguration and everything happening in the world with this pandemic, to really challenge the person that you would like to be and the person who you were before. Because we have choices. We're given choices every day. Do I want to choose fear or do I want to choose love today? Those are the really two things it boils down to. And that is a quote by Jim Carrey. I'm quoting Jim Carrey. He literally says, you have a choice between love and fear every day. And people who choose racism, even though they look like, bloated pork rinds storming the Capitol, they chose racism. They chose hatred. They chose to make a decision based off their insecurities and lack of understanding of how the world actually works. So challenge the person you're trying to become, because that's the best way. A piece of coal turns into a diamond. You know, racism cannot be unlearned. People who are racist are taught that from inception. I do believe that. You're born pure, your parents are racist, guess what? It's gonna be very difficult for a toddler who doesn't know English vocabulary yet to not become racist. So racism cannot be unlearned, but it will require you to become a completely different person, which in the end will be a direct blessing to you and everybody around you. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I have a lot to say about racism as somebody who is doing their best to be a young advocate and activist, who also gets really angry, and I know I have to work on that. I'm just really passionate about these things. But in the theater district, and I know Diane, and I know Princess, and I know all of you have similar stories where even if it's in the Philippines or when you come to America or when you go somewhere else and you experience racism and stereotypes from other people, it makes you feel unwelcome. So imagine how our Black brothers and sisters and family of the world who have darker skin than us feel. I understand my light skin privilege, but I also understand too on the flip side, and I hate to get into it, but because you asked, that Filipinos also have a very deeply rooted history of being a little racist.
Yes.
And it's something, thank you. And it's something that is we should feel ashamed of that. We should feel guilty. And then we should do something about it because we have the ultimate power to. Imagine the change we can make. Just like Miss Gorman said in her poem tonight. We don't need imagine if we become the light. How much of a difference that would be in this next chapter of the world. Seriously, America I feel like is now the catalyst of everybody else following in pursuit of, wow, what can we do now? Now that Cheeto's out of office, what can we do now to start being radical advocates for progressive change, for beautiful change? Going up, not going stale, going up. So, yeah, I don't sit well with racism at all. In fact, I will say this too, one more thing, I'm sorry. It's not one thing to not be racist. It's either being racist or actively anti-racist. Actively anti-racist. And if that confuses you and makes you question yourself, I say dive into that. I had to do that. I had to go, actively anti-racist, what does that mean for me? Oh man, maybe I should really be extremely aware of how I ask questions or who I'm asking questions to, being empathetic. Say, maybe if I was a Black woman right now who just saw that Sandra Bland had been murdered, maybe I don't want to be asked questions about, being empathetic and understanding that people are in pain right now. And it's not Black people's job to cure racism. It's a collectiveness of the world. In fact, if anything, Asians, we're the majority of the world. We're what, like 60% Asians of the world? Like, we're not a minority, we're the majority. And we can have a huge impact on how our people become leaders of being actively anti-racist. Now I'm done. Thank you so much. I talk a lot.
And I would like to vote you for the I would like to actually vote you for the next election, just because of that answer. But I've read the reviews for Yellow Rose also, Eva. A lot of people are actually, hoping for like an Academy Award nod for your performance in this film. Is that something that you would like to achieve, like in the year or so?
I would like to achieve that as much as I'd like to achieve the lottery. It's not up to me. It's up to a higher power. If $1.5 million comes my way, I wouldn't be mad. If an Academy Award nomination comes my way, I will not be mad. I'll be very grateful. There's very few things that can disappoint someone when you live a life of gratitude a day. I understand, though, that it's not in my hands. So thankfully, the hard work of the film has already been done in production and post-production. So we stamped that off when we started screening it to the public. So it's in the universe's hand. It's in God's hands now. But that'd be awesome. It'd be nice to have something like that. I don't know. Mainly because I'm unemployed, and I think it would help me get more songs.
All right, thank you. Eva.
Thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
right, about the film, Direct Diane, and being like the screenwriter of this film, I know that like culturally it's been passed on to you, like the song Dahil Sa'yo you were mentioning earlier. What was like the conscious choice about this song? And because this is, if you're like a Filipino living in the Philippines, you kind of know that this song is actually a little Marcos centric. Is that something that you've thought about prior to actually choosing the song?
No, I mean, it's a very personal thing in that, as I mentioned before, that my parents sang it to me. It's a sentimental. I definitely didn't have more meaning to it than just the sentimentality of it. I also think it's a beautiful song. At one point in the script, I had Rose sing it in country style with English lyrics, meaning that it would somehow bring together both of the cultural sides of herself. But in the end, it's really just used as a lullaby. And one thing I will say, I don't translate any of the Tagalog in the English version, which was intentional, because I just wanted people to feel the song's intention more than read the lyrics. But also, the minute you put subtitles, which is not answering your question, but the minute you put subtitles in a film that's about being American, it separates the idea that we are Americans. So that was the other reason I didn't subtitle it. But I think the meaning of the song was just strictly from a sentimental memory of my own. But I don't, I'm not as familiar with the meaning of it in the Philippines.
Because this was actually popularized by then Imelda Marcos.
Yes, I know.
Actually, usually sings it in events, all over events, actually. But anyway, I'm gonna ask you.
That's
like,
what I mean.
More.
That is not the reason.
A more business inclined question. Was there like any hesitation on your part to actually showcase this now, because it's the pandemic, and this would probably be like gladly more nicer if it was shown on theaters rather than on digital. Is that something that you thought of prior to releasing this film?
Yes, we actually did have. We're one of the few films of 2020 that was released theatrically. We showed in 900 theaters across the United States and Canada, and which is considered a wide release. So in one way, it was like, yay, we had a wide release. But then, it's like one person in the theater. I went to a theater in New Jersey. I think, Eva, you went to one somewhere else.
No, we went to a random place in Connecticut.
In Connecticut.
We were the only ones in the theater. It was amazing.
Yeah. So that was not great. But people did see it. And during our first 2 weeks, I believe we were the number one independent film in the box office, even with these crazy, horrible times. But as a filmmaker, your dream is to see it projected. And I won't lie, when I went to the Jersey theater and seeing it with the popcorn, I don't know about you, I've never heard you talk about it. It's just like, that's what a movie is. That's what and it breaks my heart because we were so looking forward to premiere this in the Philippines and have the red carpet and invite Eva over and show her the Philippines and introduce her. And that, to me, is my biggest regret, is more than even our US release. I really was looking forward to the Philippine release and seeing it in theaters there. But, we were released in the States digitally about a month ago. So that's kind of when I think most people started to watch the film. So Sony was really good about, as a company, as a studio, they wanted to protect the theatrical experience as much as they could. They wanted to preserve the relationships with the theaters, and as much as they could without encouraging people to get, to be harmed or to expose them to COVID. Wanted to give us a theatrical. And I definitely shot the film to be shown on a big screen. We shot, those of you who are in the film nerds, we shot anamorphic. We shot with vintage Kowa anamorphic lenses. So it was intended to be seen in this big screen. So, but I'm happy with the digital release. We're doing pretty good. We were chosen by Apple TV, Apple, as the editor's choice for the month of January, along with Soul, the Pixar movie. So it's like our little movie, and then Soul, and so they're particularly really championing us. So and people are always sending me screenshots like, "Oh, your film was recommended on my TV." So. But it's also, I think it's a film that plays well in your home. And I think people will, it's a very intimate story. It's the kind of story you can watch with your whole family, which is something I wanted to do. And many people have said that they've watched with their teenage kids or, with the grandma, and everyone gets talking about the film by the end of it. And that is a dream to me. That's definitely something I wanted.
I actually have like a lot of questions, Mar, but your film is actually going to be showcased on KTX, which is like the top streaming platform right now in the Philippines for paid viewing. If that happens, what would you like the Filipinos to look at when they see Rose, per se? Why was she actually a little weak, not like a powerful, feisty woman that she is?
I wouldn't say she's weak. I think she actually, I think she stands up for herself. I don't want to give away too much, but I think in the beginning she's a good daughter, which I wanted to show. She has a very close relationship with her mother, and then the rug gets pulled out from underneath her. And she is scared, and she is out of sorts. But over the course of the film, and you stay with her, she actually makes some decisions that are not so great, are very teenage, and she shows some of her temper at times. Thanks to that was just put in there by Eva, just because she is that way. But it's, a typical teenager. The hormones rage, you start yelling at your mom, and then you make dumb decisions. And then by the end, she makes a pretty bold decision that not a lot of 17-year-olds would make. And not a lot of 17-year-old kids would weather this horrible thing the way she does. Not so elegantly, a little bit rough around the edges, but ultimately you're proud of her. And you root for her. So it's funny because one of the only notes I got when we showed an early rough cut was someone said, "Why does she have to be so mean?" And I was like, "What?"
May I say something about, because I understand why you say why she's weak, because in comparison to the immigration side of the United States, she is weak. She is nothing to them. She is a piece of lint on the floor that they can go, and then all of a sudden her life's ruined. Just like what happened to Princess's character. I mean, if you really look at it, Princess's character, and I will just say, I would be the happiest girl in the world if all of my next projects involved Princess. She is an actress that is I wish I had more time with her. But the way that she gave you Priscilla was strong. She was strong. She was a strong mother. She's a single, strong mother. And yet, in the eyes of the American immigration system at the time, she was still weak. You saw her in the detention center, you know, being N95, get up, get up, get up. Where are we going? Get up. She was nothing to them. She was still weak. So if anything, it's awesome that people are asking these questions and putting such heavy words next to these characters, because it just shows you like the human spirit is truly unbreakable, even against extremely powerful anti-human forces or you know, systematic ways of working that are being enforced by people in power, who, by the way, the person who placed that, as Diane was saying before, who thankfully we never have to talk about again unless we're really bored, he did that out of what I was saying before, ignorance and hate, and being unempathetic to what it was like, ironically, because his wife is not immigrant. But Princess's character was strong. She was, you know, Rose, to be honest, could never be that strong, in my opinion. You know, Princess's character knew that Rose had passions, but she was like, I need to say what I need to say in order for you to be safe, because I love you. That's what a strong mother does. And then yet she let her stay in America undocumented to pursue her dreams. That's a strong mother. That's a mother who trusts. That's a ferocious mother. So I understand why you're saying that Rose looked weak, because in the eyes of the American government, she absolutely did, and she still does now. So if anything, we have a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do.
All right. With that question, I'd like to ask Miss Princess Punzalan. We've seen your wonderful performance as a character actress. If you are evil, you're extremely evil, and when you're a good lass, everyone is like rooting for you. What's the secret to this process, do you think?
In everything I do, I try to really pull out some real memories, like real people, real characters that who were involved in my life. Like if I was supposed to be mean, I try to pull memory from the abusive people that have hurt me in the past, and I just try to mirror and try to be like them. And now, as a mother, I have so much love and desire to protect my own daughter, and that's where I pulled this the feelings of how to become really Priscilla, how to be Priscilla. So in all of the things that I do, I always try to pull a real person, a real character who was involved in my life. So I just try to be real in as much as I can.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.